Windows 95 was my introduction to computers. I couldn't tell you what I thought of it at the time, but I do remember the Buddy Holly Weezer song playing. And the game Hover. Hover's included in your Windows 95 to showcase the gaming capabilities it had. In Hover, you search for flags. The goal is to grab all the blue flags before the enemy can grab all the red flags. The flag placements are randomized, and as levels continues, the opponents will have more hover cars looking for flags so that they can find it quicker. The levels are endless from what I know and just keep repeating the same 3 stages. Castle, Neon City, Sewer, over and over again. There are power-ups you can get throughout the levels, such as like jumps, which are important in sewer levels mostly, stealth, which makes it so the enemy can't see you, and walls you can drop in front of your enemy if they try to ram you, or you can block their flag. There's like speed boosts and shields and ones that make you go slow, and you gotta be careful what's on the ground because you could get stuck or launched in a direction, or worst of all, some squares can take away the flags you collect, so make sure you check what you're hovering over. And that's really the whole game. It's tiny. It's nothing special, like it's a fine game, but it's nothing special at all. And for sure isn't a must-play or anything, but if you're ever on Windows 95 for some reason, why would you be? But if you ever are, I don't know, my grandma still is. If you're ever on Windows 95 for some reason, and you don't want to play Solitaire, try Hover. Tune in next week when I review Solitaire. I'm kidding, I'm not gonna do that, but you should subscribe anyway. Transformers Devastation got my attention by looking and being in the first-gen universe. That classic 1980s Transformers I grew up despite being born way after. Now this G1 Transformers story would have to take place in either Season 1 or the first half of Season 2 of the G1 Transformers. So before the masterpiece that is the 1986 Transformers movie is where this takes place. You play as the Autobots, and there are 5 characters: Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Sideswipe, Wheeljack, and Grimlock. I did kinda try the characters, but since I had already put in-game currency and stats into Optimus, I just kind of stuck with him. Plus, I think that's my favorite Autobot, I think. Well, I've never been big into this art style when it comes to games. I think it's called cell shading. I do think it actually looks really good here, and all the Transformers look correct. Music and sound-wise, it's fine. The voice acting has a lot of the original cast, so that adds a lot. The gameplay is a very hack and slash, but not in the way where there's like tons of enemies. This is more reliant on fighting one or a few. I don't think I ever saw 10 or more unless it was one of the mini sections like this one that reminds me a lot of Galaga. The combat is not too bad. There's a lot of rolling and transforming to fight your opponents, and while I'm not in love with the combat, I also am nowhere close to hating it. It's a very engaging combat. A lot of bosses are pretty fun too. This combat you are seeing here is about all the game is. Sometimes you drive and explore a little bit before a fight, but the fight, that's really all there is. The plot has potential. Decepticons are trying to turn the Earth into a new Cybertron, and apparently long ago, a Prime before Optimus really wanted this done. That being said though, nothing really at all happens with this. We stop the Decepticons, we learn nothing about that Prime. Most of everything that happens is filler, and it's a shame. Overall, this game is completely fine. On sale or for cheap, it'll be fun for its short 4-ish hour runtime, but overall, it's just kinda fine. Nothing that is a must play or a must buy. I was with Ashley playing a bunch of old, dead social MMOs, and we ended up on worlds.com. It was tricky as fuck to navigate, but luckily, there are still people playing and they helped me out. And yeah, I know there's like a cult or something in this game. Some people mentioned it to me, but I wasn't playing long enough to like get in it And if you want to know more about that, Nexpo made a video on that, so I'll put a link to that in the description. But now I just kind of want to explore what it had to offer. And I never would have found some of these places if someone didn't help me to get to a place that allows me to get to more places. It's weird. All you do is talk to online players and have outfits and like homes and friends and such. There's not really game aspect to it, it's all socializing. But it's also cool that there's like still players around, even if it's not like a ton. One person made a Doom world, that was pretty dope. I also found this Five Nights at Freddy's room that's super cool and slightly interactive. There's an Ace Attorney room I found. And the whole game just had a really interesting vibe to it that I enjoyed. Also, I'm a Snake Devil man, by the way. There's this cool Candyland world. There was an 80s room, and you got tons of characters you can choose from and also customize yourself in tons of different ways. Like, look how insanely creepy I can be. Navigating and figure out how to do things in worlds.com is such a fucking mess, and like I said, without help, I would not have found out as much as I did. There's also this super outdated store of merch you could buy from old artists back when the game existed, and while you can't buy it now, you can still see like the merch they had available. There's also an LSD Dream emulator room, including this face, which made me real happy. And there's a Star Trek room that would have been cool, but a lot of textures wouldn't load for me. But yeah, I thought worlds.com was a cool little place to visit and feels like I jumped back in time. Like, there isn't a nostalgia as I've never played it growing up, but it has such a retro vibe, it almost feels nostalgic anyway. And I enjoy that. It was a cool visit, and if you're ever looking for a really old MMO, why would you be doing that? But if you are, you could check out worlds.com.
We must stop them. We must stop them. We must stop them.
TMNT Shredder's Revenge is a beat-em-up for the lovers of the classic arcade games. From the makers of Streets of Rage 4, you know it's gonna be good quality. It's up to 6 players, which is pretty nuts, and on top of that, not only can you play online with others, but of course it has couch co-op. I got a group of friends together and we did 4-player co-op with each of us being a different turtle, and that was amazing. As well as the turtles, April, Casey, and Splinter are playable too. They really knocked it out of the park with this game. A lot of things feel a bit close to me in terms of TMNT beat-em-ups, like the Statue of Liberty being the final battle location has already happened so many times. But look, I've been playing the old arcade games recently, and I feel like a casual player won't notice stuff like that. However, the Cowabunga collection will be coming out soon, so I'm sure more comparisons will be drawn when these arcade beat-em-ups are more accessible. But hey, even with it feeling a bit samey, it's still fun as hell. I loved it. From beginning to end was a blast. And to mix it up a bit, this one has leveling up, which is pretty cool. It basically just unlocks bonus moves. And it has team revives as well. You can high-five each other to transfer health if one player is weaker. There's also special moves you can do to help clear out enemies. Honestly, all this really does add a lot to the game, and it's fantastic. I would like to see more playable characters, kinda like in Rescue Palooza, but I'm not mad at the 7 playable characters, that's plenty. And while I do still think the older TMNT beat-em-ups are better than this one is a super strong entry, and it makes me very happy beat-em-ups are coming back. This one definitely belongs up there with all the other TMNT beat-em-ups. I had a blast playing this, and I recommend you play it too, with friends especially, as this game is so much more fun with friends. Literally, I ordered a pizza and we just ate pizza and played TMNT. It was a good day. The game is also only $25, and free if you got Xbox Game Pass. So there is plenty of reason to try it out. The bosses were fun, and seeing Super Shredder is always a treat. Lots of characters in here you will know too. And this dude Chrome Dome, who I don't know, kind of looks like the 2003 Shredder to me, which makes me super excited. In conclusion, it's a good game. Please buy. Roller Coaster Tycoon came out on PC in 1999, and in it you take control of building and running a theme park. It has a series of levels with objectives to unlock more levels, but if you ignore the objectives, you can just play your park endlessly. You can build all kinds of things and hire employees. Employees is not a fair word though, as handymen get $35 a month, mechanics get $55 a month. So they're basically slaves. They cannot raise the wage, and they work 24 hours a day, so I feel so bad for them. Anyway, building her dream park is a lot of fun. I named my first park Front for Money Laundering. You can also kill guests, but sometimes they die on their own. Fortunately, the press goes away in like a day though, and everyone continues coming to your park, which I swear is how the news of present day works. You can build all kinds of rides. Roller coasters, thrill rides, gentle rides, water rides, etc. Plus a ton of food stalls and shops. The game's a bit dated, but still good for a relaxing time, and it's very casual. I built my own park. It has a theater that only plays The Room. I have a haunted house called A Crackhead's Home. I have a crooked house called A Condemned House. I have a maze called Guests Are Complaining They Can't Find an Exit. I have a bunch of coasters, each named after a Sith Lord, and just like a shit ton of rides. I have Eat a Dick, the hot dog stand, and many more. I also built cool scenery so people can look at that. And if you listen closely, you can sometimes make out what people are saying. Sometimes I hear, "You can do it." And pet it on, would you please? Whether that's what they said or not, who knows, but that's what I hear. I imagine a little girl who just keeps getting upset with her brother that is a dinosaur named Petidon, and he just keeps doing dinosaur things, and she's like, Petidon? Petidon, would you please? G.I. Joe Operation Blackout is a game from Game Mill, and while Game Mill seems to exclusively make some of the worst games in existence, this one isn't bad. To me, Game Mill is the LGN of the present, grabbing up licenses of popular franchises and pumping out shitty games over and over. Which is a shame, because I like the franchise Cobra Kai, I like Avatar: The Last Airbender. These are good franchises. Why make such shitty games? Well, it turns out they actually made one game that wasn't shitty. It wasn't good either, but I don't think it's bad. It falls into a bland but absolutely fine and kind of boring category. Well, it is a very generic third-person shooter. Having a split-screen co-op really brought this game up for me and amplified the fun a lot. There are a lot of characters as well, and a lot of unlockable outfits for the characters, and all of that is good. You also play as both Joes and Cobras throughout the story, so that's cool too. Combat-wise, it's not amazing or bad, it's just really mind-numbing and bland. The longer you play, the more you zone out, and while it is repetitive, there are things to try to help balance that out. Like I said, there are 12 characters, and they have their own stats and gun loadouts and moves, so switching characters helps a lot with keeping the game fresh. And on top of that, there are vehicle levels, which normally aren't fun for me, but I actually enjoyed these more than anything else in the game. These were actually I did like these. I would drive, engage with my gunner, and it's sort of like this on-rails shooter, but like a good one. I really enjoyed these, actually. But the combat in the regular parts, it needed tweaked to be more fun. Again, these vehicle sections, they nailed. Now, what do I mean by the combat needing to be more fun? That's a little hard to describe. What makes those original Halo games so fun to play, but some other first-person shooters feel not as good? It's hard to describe, but I suppose I'll try to explain my gripes with G.I. Joe's combat. Melee is for some reason the Y button, and it's easy to miss your swing. The best characters in G.I. Joe, Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, are some of the weakest characters in this game. Guns do far too little damage. The reloading minigame is annoying and can be too small to be noticed at times. Aiming needs tweaked. Enemies can take forever to die, and you die pretty quick. And I never feel like I have a lot of choices in how I approach a situation. Everything is shooting, non-stop, and the shooting is only passable. It's not a fun shooting to play. My last gripe, I suppose, is the story. It's such a nothing burger and is as generic as it can be. There is a decent blueprint here. I think with a better story writer and a little more time in the oven, this could have been an actual really good game. But as it is now, it feels empty. Every level feels like filler, and it's just a bit disappointing. I played on an old laptop, so excuse the flickering. I now have a new laptop, but there's no disk drive, and I don't feel like re-recording footage. Barbie Secret Agent is a PC exclusive game that looks a lot like a PS1 game. Even the training levels and some of the walls on the levels remind me of specific PS1 games. The plot is there's a thief stealing different fashion materials and calling himself the Chameleon. Could it be a woman named Camille? Could Camille be the chameleon? Maybe. In the game you travel all over, solve puzzles, talk to people, and change your outfit for literally anything you need to do.
We need to put on my action outfit.
I don't know what genre of game to call this. I often hear anything Barbie goes into girl games categories, but the idea of girl games and boy games is stupid. So I'm going to call this like a stealth spy game, but for kids. Like really young kids. The puzzles in the stealth are really easy, and the chase scenes are, they're there, I guess. This isn't bad though. My sisters grew up with this game, and honestly the makers of this game really tried to make a good product. For example, Tokyo, while not open world, does give you a little open area to run about it.
I ordered a vacuum and a couple other things, but you'll only be picking up the vacuum tomorrow.
Okay.
Everything else is going to be shipped.
Okay.
I made you an account on Bath & Body Works.
Okay.
Not Bath & Body Works, but Bath & Beyond. So
yes.
You'll be on there.
I honestly think if this would have came out on the PS1, it would have been a hit. Although it would have came out late during its life. Now this game is good for like little kids. For adults, I'm going to say nah, it's a bit cheesy.
Hello? Who's up there?
Barbie.
Also, the guards you have to deal with are literally the worst at their jobs. It reminds me a lot of Kim Possible, where Barbie's traveling all over and has friends everywhere and does spy work and has gadgets. The sound mixing is really bad though. Some things are way too loud, mainly phone calls. I'd show you, but I don't actually want to, as that would be an annoying experience. Also, Camille, who, yes, was Chameleon. Her goal is to make a suit that makes her invisible. And she does do this, but also, she then announces to the whole world that she is doing this and that she's going to steal stuff now. What? Why would you do this? Now literally everyone will know she stole the stuff. Like, she might get away for a bit, but the second she's captured, she already admitted to the whole world she did it.
So I just like fulfilled the order. Like actually bought everything.
Yes.
That way, like the order's like an order, not that we're signed in. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, have a good night.
I'm going to bed for real now, so stop invading your recording.
All good.
But keep this in.
Keep,
Hi.
keep that one in?
Yep. People love me, Michael.
Alright, I'll keep that in.
Greetings, Barbie. I see you've managed to capture Mr. Johnson. But I have found the 5th ingredient to create my infamous chameleon suit. While you were out chasing my decoy, I have been making scientific history. Within moments, I will have a suit that makes me completely invisible. I will use my chameleon suit to steal all the world's treasures.
There will be nothing I can't steal.
Nobody will be able to stop me.
So, it was Camille all this time. Camille is chameleon.
Anyway, in conclusion, Barbie Secret Agent is a fine game for young kids or just a game to play while your mind is on something else, but it is nowhere near a game that I can really call good. Snatcher is a visual novel on the Sega CD. To be honest, I've never played a visual novel this old, and it honestly was better made than literally any visual novel I've played present day. It has a really cool pixel art style to it, and neat animations, not to mention full voice acting, and a rocking soundtrack that literally gets stuck in my head. The game is set in a cyberpunk world and takes a lot of inspiration from Terminator and from Blade Runner. The plot revolves around robots called Snatchers who look just like a real person, and they will replace them in real life, and that real person will go missing. You play as Gillian Seed, a junker. Junkers are sort of like detectives who focus specifically on Snatchers. Gillian is a fun main character, and he's joined by Metal Gear. That's right, his sidekick is a small robot named Metal Gear. This game was made by Kojima, who created the Metal Gear series. I don't believe it ties into that, but I've never played it. Yet. So I don't know for sure. Well, I guess I did play the first one on the NES, but I don't think that even counts. Metal and Gillian play off each other really well. Gillian being a childish man, and Metal often criticizing him. Their dialogue can be funny.
I want my pizza! Where's my pizza?
You go through the game meeting a slew of characters and solving the mystery behind the Snatchers. And to be honest, the game has a lot more mature things in it than I would have expected, and I appreciate it. From heavy violence, to alcoholism, to sexual comments, to strippers. Konami has tons of Easter eggs in there too, like their logo and hidden messages from people who worked on the game, and even characters from their games in here. Like in one scene, a club full of characters are dressed as Konami characters, like Contra or Simon Belmont. The humor can also be rather funny. Okay, but now I need to mention a few of the bad aspects of the game. Snatcher has some problematic stuff in it. Things that were common in the 90s entertainment that we have grown to realize is wrong, like a transphobic comment, or Gillian constantly hitting on basically every woman in the game. The game also has a search and a look button, which feels almost redundant, as the things you search and look at are the same, but might trigger different options, so you gotta go through them both all the time. Also, even more annoying than that is sometimes you have to choose an option multiple times for the story to progress. It's not enough to search something, you might have to search it twice or 3 times before adding it to your evidence. My last gripe is the shooting sections. While most of them are not a problem, there are a couple that are a little unforgiving. They can throw more enemies at you than you have time for, and if an enemy shoots you, it pauses your shot, allowing more to shoot you, and more pauses. And it can go on longer than it needs to. On top of that, it's not the most responsive to what I wanted it to do either. So any shooting scenes where I had these bug dudes, I would basically panic, aim, and fire as fast as I can. And the Snatchers I actually got to pay attention to and plan my shots. Okay, I do need to go back to praising this game though, because I do truly love it. The art, the music, the characters, and even the story is really well written. Sure, there are some things that aren't, but I feel like it's mostly good writing. I love the twists and the turns, and I love the characters. I wanted to know what would happen next, and I would literally be tense on some parts. This game being on the Sega CD means a lot of people didn't get to play that, and that's a shame because it honestly deserves more praise. It even makes you worry about other characters. Also, in one part, Metal Gear's body is literally replaced with a Sega CD while he's recovering from an explosion. And I thought that was funny. I will warn you, if you are of the faint of heart, this game isn't for you. There's people killed, animals killed, corpses with maggots, etc. It is a mature game. But that's something I absolutely love about it, and I love how much Sega allowed to stay in their game. Snatcher is one of my favorite Genesis games, a favorite CD game, and most likely my favorite visual novel. I highly recommend this game. It's not as action-packed as what I usually play, but the mystery and the whole atmosphere and presentation is amazing, and lots of world building goes into it, so you literally begin to know the world as you play. Plus, the 90s version of what they think the future will be like is always a cool thing. Like, they got robots but not cell phones, and computers are still blocky, etc. It's just really cool. Well, I guess maybe there's cell phones. Metal Gear can act as a cell phone and allows you to call people.
Oh, is that you, Gillian?
By the way, bring a notebook when you play this game. You might need to write some things down. I know I did. Like, I wrote down some numbers or info or clues, because sometimes puzzles didn't make sense to me, but once I got it, I was like, oh, yeah, I should have got that. The game does have unlimited continues, so you can't really lose. And Metal Gear lets you save, which is really nice because the game runs about 15 hours, so you'll want to save periodically and take breaks. Anyway, that's enough. Subscribe to me, hit that bell, like my video, go play Snatcher, do all those things. Everybody knows about Chex Quest, the cereal-based Doom clone. Alright, maybe that's not true. Some people know about Chex Quest. But a far more obscure cereal game is Capt'n Crunch's Crunchling Adventure. They came in cereal boxes and with 400 free minutes of AOL online, which apparently you had to pay by the minute? What the fuck? So glad that's over. This game is old and kinda rare, but also unknown enough that the market isn't big for it. I owned it as a kid, and rarely did I get new games, so getting free games in a cereal box was pretty cool. I used to have like a bunch of demos, and some cereal boxes came with like episodes from kids shows, so you could get a taste of what that was like, which is how I learned about Jackie Chan adventures. And I'm getting off topic, so this was the last game I recorded on my old PC. So the flickering and the recording is here, and I apologize for it. It's always hard recording old games. The plot of the game is Capt'n Crunch ran out of a thing called Crunchium, and without it, he can't create Capt'n Crunch. So he went to find out the issue, and it turns out the monsters are stealing Crunchium. Not sure why, and never is explained. There are also these beings known as crunchlings, who seem to work for Capt'n Crunch. He says because they're his friends, but also they have to stay there and make him crunchium for him. So it seems to me like he enslaved a race that isn't bright enough to know they're enslaved. Anyway, so what is his plan? He challenged these monsters to an athletic competition. Hold on. Holy shit, is this Space Jam? Anyway, sorry. Well, it's not quite, because we have to raise a crunchling from a child to an adult, teaching them only eating Capt'n Crunch and training for sports. Grooming and indoctrinating this child into Capt'n Crunch's bizarre way of life that he wishes them to live.
That's where you come in. I need you to help me by raising one of these crunchlings as your very own. You'll need to feed and train your crunchling, and together we can raise one of these little critters to chase those thieves out of Crunchium City forever.
Now, Capt'n Crunch was ahead of his time and realized there's more than two genders. There's boy, girl, and hat. I obviously choose hat. Now you have to feed your crunchling and care for them. And train in 3 different ways. First off is skateboard racing in Backwardia, where everything is backwards, I guess. Except the Gatorade advertisements. They want to make sure you can read those. Next is jumping through computer chips. Speed seems to matter, but grabbing these crunch berries does too. And this one you jump higher and higher with training. And the last one is my least favorite for many reasons. You have to do it the most to level up. And it's honestly just throwing rocks in the air. It's the least fun. Of all these training minigames, none of them are really fun, but you must keep doing them. Capt'n Crunch will address your progress and even pop up sometimes. Your crunchling will grow once each of his skills have hit a certain point, and you can't get those skills to their full potential till you're an adult. Now you go through a growth spurt and you're a teen now. This changes up the levels to just being a little bit longer, but it's still the same stuff.
I've just visited the center of the earth.
Now grow again and you're an adult. Yes, you lose the hat, but at least you keep the shoes. As an adult, you can still train, which again is just a longer version of what you usually do, except now you can do flips. But also, as an adult, you can finally challenge the monster. And I hope Crunchlings age fast, and that we didn't just train this child 18 years on pure sports and Capt'n Crunch propaganda. So now we challenge him, and it randomly chooses one of the 3 events. They're the same as the ones you've been training for, but with a new location. And can you imagine if it chose something you weren't training for? Anyway, the new location for all the competitions seems to be the Crunchium Caves. This is where that bastard makes them live, in homes far too small. After you win, you get this scene.
Way to go! You've saved Crunchium City and all the world's Crunchium! Thanks to you, there will be plenty of Cap'n Crunch cereal forever! 3 cheers for the greatest Crunchling athlete! The Crunchium thieves for history! Together, we train the greatest Crunchling athlete ever!
I'm not gonna lie, this dude is intimidating. Is this a good game? No, it's not, and I spent too much money getting a copy, and then my copy arrived broke, so I had to buy another copy. Like, it wasn't awful. They were like $30 a piece, but that's $30 too much. But then again, like I said, It's kind of rare, so I only see it going up in value. Is Capt'n Crunch's crunchling adventure an investment then? Well, it might have been if I didn't open it and play it. But at least I have so much free AOL now. A Way Out is one of the best two-player experiences I've ever played. It's unique in that it's a two-player only game. Either you have to play with someone online, or, far better, you play couch co-op. I love playing at home with a buddy beside me, and this is one of the best, if not the best game to play with a friend. On top of that, the split screen is one of the best I've ever seen. It changes all the time to what's most important or what will be easiest for what's going on. There are parts it's one screen so that you gotta pay attention, but for the most part it lets you do both. Lets you do your thing, while at the same time forcing you to work together. Not only do you get to see these characters bond and get closer throughout the game, but on top of that, you yourself will become closer with the buddy you choose to play with. I've played it with Ashley when I first played, and this time around I played it with my buddy Gage. The overall premise of the game is that you are both prisoners in jail, and you both want to kill the guy who put you in there, a mob boss named Harvey. The gameplay is all over the place, from stealth to puzzles where you gotta work together, to driving, to shooting, to chasing, etc. Never once does it feel stale or boring, and there isn't anything I'd consider filler in this either. It's a great game. And yeah, okay, there are sections where you can do stuff like play Connect 4, or arm wrestle till you break the buttons on your controller, or dunk a basketball on a little kid. But that's quality of life stuff. That just adds to the fun, and I wouldn't consider it filler. Now this next section is heavy spoilers, so I recommend if you haven't played the game, go ahead and leave that video now. Okay, so it turns out whoever plays as Vincent is a cop this whole time, which doesn't make a lot of sense story-wise, but gameplay-wise this is huge, because it means at the end it comes down to you and your friend who you spent hours working with, turning on each other, and what ending you get depends on who will win this fight to the death. This is honestly amazing. The first game that comes to mind was Streets of Rage, in which you can fight your friend at the end, but the incentive really isn't that great. Gage was also like, yeah, and in LEGO Star Wars you can fight each other on Mustafar. Which, I mean, he's not wrong, it's just a very weird comparison. But this is such a really cool ending sequence. It's one of my favorite endings in any co-op game ever. Also, Leo's wife is fucking amazing, and his kid loves him, and he's a good father. And Vincent is kind of a bad husband, and his wife kinda sucks, and he's a cop. So at the end, there's a clear winner in my eyes of who I want to win, but at the same time, I'm not gonna go easy just cause I'm the bad guy. The writing is kind of a mixed bag. I'd say it's mostly good, but there's like a lot of times you're gonna have to suspend your disbelief. Leo and Vincent have a really awkward chemistry that I think works, and it even plays into multiple choices you make within the game. And yes, you do kill Harvey in this really satisfying way. Overall, the game is amazing, for sure one of my favorite co-op experiences. Take this review with a grain of salt, because unlike most genres, I have barely dipped my toe into RTS games. They just aren't for me. I've played maybe 5-ish. That said, this one I found myself enjoying far more than most of the others I've tried. Age of Mythology is a spin-off of the Age of Empires series. And not only does it look similar, but it has many similar gameplay concepts. One of the reasons RTS games just aren't for me is the amount of micromanaging I have to do. For example, in Age of Empires, I'd have to make sure my teams wouldn't get stuck on trees or something, and I'd have to make sure my villagers would actually do more work after they finished a task. Age of Mythology seems to do a lot better with things like that. Though I do still have to micromanage a lot, it's not nearly as much. I can usually count on my warriors to go where I tell them. There's also a button to show me villagers who aren't doing their job so I can put them to work. With each age you progress through and get new upgrades, but it isn't like Age of Empires where you use buildings for upgrades. Instead, your upgrades are given based upon the gods you choose. You have your main god, which gives you all sorts of bonuses, and then you pick demigods, which also have bonuses and creature types. 2 players could choose to have Norse gods and have wildly different strategies and armies based upon the gods they chose. And honestly, there's a lot of differences that make the different factions worth using. For example, my favorite is the North gods, and you have to have people worshipping at temples all the time to build favor in order to use mythological creatures and such. But if you play as the Egyptians, you can build statues that will continuously give you favor so you don't have to have your villagers idly worshipping. Also, it is a bit less complicated than some of the others I played, which made me feel like I was dumb and missing things, but I wasn't. It's just a more accessible game, and that was nice. However, I do wish some of the stats or things I would want to know would be in the game somewhere, even if you have to go to other menus to see, because I feel like there's a lot of things I would like to know that are not in the game to know. Maybe they were in the manual? I don't know. Multiple mythologies are real and existing at the same time within this game. Norse, Greek, Egyptian, Atlantean exist in the Steam version, but Chinese also is there. It's just a DLC and I did not buy it. One of the best parts of Age of Mythology is the ability to use the powers of the gods to do things. Now you can only use them once per game, but that's for balancing reasons, and they can do vastly different things. Like some increase resources or productivity, while others can devastate enemy camps and armies. On top of that, having all sorts of mythological creatures is really cool. As someone who mainly played Norse, my favorites were the Hydra, which upon each death would grow more heads and become more powerful until all 5 of their heads were gone. And the Colossus, which not only is a walking tank of destruction, but they can also eat trees to regain life. Now I don't know if I'm playing this right. I feel like a good army would have more diversity than the 3 or 4 types of creatures I use. However, I did do alright on easy and on normal, and then I got my ass handed to me on hard, because clearly I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Nonetheless, it was still an enjoyable game, and I could see myself having fun playing locally with friends. Also, there are titans, and they are huge and make you feel like you summoned a goddamn Godzilla upon your enemies. Now, I did play a bit of the story mode, and it seemed fine for the most part. The in-game cutscenes are fine, the voice acting is fine, the storytelling is fine. But the majority of my time was playing the free play scenarios and trying to play a bit of each group to see what they had to offer and how their gods worked, starting on easy with teammates and then working my way up in challenge until I would get my ass kicked and then figure out how I could do better and then get my ass kicked again. Now, there is still things I don't like. I don't like the population cap or the limited house cap. If I have the resources, I wish it would just let me use them. I'm sure it's either for balancing or to make the game run smoother, but still, I don't like it. I also have to micromanage plenty, like having to tell my armies to stop walking because they're being attacked and to actually fight back. A new version is coming. I don't know if it's a reboot or a remake, but I will probably give it a try. And like I said, I'm not an RTS guy, but if I was to really dive into one, this would be towards the top of my list. Cobra Kai should fucking die. Not the show, but the game. The game is garbage. I mean, the first thing that really stands out to me is just how ugly it looks. It looks like a fucking mobile game, you know? It just looks awful. You're telling me this was a console game? This was on the Xbox One? On the PlayStation 4? This garbage? It looks like something I would see a loud little kid playing on an iPad at full volume while his inconsiderate parents just assume we're all okay with this obnoxious noise. It's totally fine. This is the art style they chose. The direction they chose. They said, what if we make a $60 game look like a free-to-play one? So who fucking made this game? Well, it was made by Game Mill. They're known for putting out trash, mediocre, licensed titles. But you know what I know them most for? The creators of Big Rigs Over-the-Road Racing. The worst racing game that has ever existed in history. These guys are known for that. And for some reason that they were handed the Cobra Kai license and said, hey, you guys can make a game? Of course it was going to be trash. Like, I came into this knowing this was going to be bad, right? I knew this was going to be bad. And I was like, maybe the game can change my mind. Maybe it is good. And the visual style is just something I don't like. But I assumed it was going to be bad, so I was not going to buy it at full price, right? It was on sale at one point for $5, which was crazy because it normally is like a full-ass priced game. And even at $5, I wasn't sure if I was paying too much. The cutscenes are cheap-ass still images, which is completely fine, but not for a full-priced game. On top of that, many of the voices don't even sound close to the actors. And while being tied into the show, it is more loosely tied in than any fucking movie tie-in game. The game also hates fat people. Like, how many ways are you going to insult fat people? I get it, you don't like fat people. Oh, but Michael, other beat-em-ups have fat people and they make fun of them. I don't feel like they do it in this way. This is nuts. Combat was not awful, but also not good. However, there are upgrades, so hey, maybe it gets better. And upgrades, like, is one cool thing about it, I guess. However, there were times my attacks just went through enemies. And also, they took the simple mechanics of a beat-em-up and they made it, like, far more complicated. There's so many fucking buttons to press for combos and shit. And they're all, like, seem to be kind of useless-ish. Not really useless, like, still good, but, like, your main attacks are just going to be your main attacks, and you're not going to use those nearly as much. There are environmental stuff you can use, but only when it works, and it can be really finicky if it's going to work. Hell, even picking up items can be really finicky if it's going to work. You can press buttons over and over again, and your character does not understand. A beat-em-up was a fine genre for this. I would have preferred a fighter, but a beat-em-up works too. I do like that you can swap characters, and I do like that you get to choose dojos. So those are two more positive things. And I do like your little special moves. I do like that. I, however, don't like that the characters have superpowers now. Cobra Kai has fire powers and Miyagi-Do has ice. That's fucking stupid. And what a stupid tone this game gives me. Any grounding this could have had, absolutely gone. I do like the idea of, like, your super moves and stuff, but can we not have the fire powers and shit? The music does fit the game, though. I didn't even finish this game. I did not finish this game. I played an hour, and then I told myself, hey, I know what you do is, like, you talk about games, you review them. You don't need to play this anymore. Don't force yourself to play this. And I put it down. I did put it down. I almost feel like $5 might have been too much to pay for this trash. Cobra Kai is something I really like. The show and I have like a love-hate relationship where it'll be I'll love something and then I'll hate something and I'll love something and I'll hate something. This game and I just have a hate relationship. There's nothing of value here to me. And if you like beat-em-ups, there are every beat-em-up that is better than this. Everyone, okay? Eastern Mind and the Lost Souls of Tong Now is a game by Osamu Sato, the creator of LSD Dream Emulator. This game came before LSD, and it's just as strange. You seem to have to die at the start. Once you die, you can then be reincarnated as a creature based upon your choice. The goal is to eventually get a soul, which you can only do through a lot of reincarnation to solve different puzzles based on what kind of creature you are. Like, what kind of creature you are decides your goal. How things are accomplished here can feel like an absolute mystery, and you mainly learn from trial and error. Sometimes it's hard to tell what is good and what is bad. This is a game where you just fuck about and slowly figure out what the hell the game wants you to do. Or sometimes you just don't. Some creatures give you hints, like this fun guy. And other creatures can do helpful things, like a show. But mostly, I'm not really sure the purpose of some of them other than flavor. You do get a very large book within the game to help you figure out things, but there's still a lot I didn't know. There's an octopus in the wall who, if he spots you, you kill him. And as one of the reincarnation challenges you need to do, you be the octopus stuck in a wall, and your goal is to wait around in the ice wall for someone to kill you. This is a bizarre, weird, trippy game, and the visuals are really what makes this. I do really like this game, specifically for the trippiness. For the actual gameplay, I don't think I really like it, but man, do I like the visuals and the sound. It's just a basic point and click, but with Sato's head on screen as a giant island that eats souls, and you can click on it to make it do stuff, or to open up doorways of weird things. You can even go in his ears. Now, I didn't beat this game, I just spent like a few hours on it, and I felt like that was enough of that. It's less of a game and more of a trippy experience, and I always love those. Now, I will say I enjoyed LSD Dream Emulator a lot more, but this was still a lot of fun with its visuals. More great work from Sato. Love the art, love the designs, both the beginning of how it was and how it plays after. It is worth it to me. That Dragon Cancer is a wild game. Real-life people Ryan and Amy Green are real-life parents who lost their son to cancer. And this game is about experiencing those last moments. It's about grief, it's about loss, it's about death. I wouldn't even say this is much of a game. Sure, it's technically a video game, but there isn't much game here. This is more of an interactive art piece. A virtual recreation of their experiences, and based on its material, I'd say you need to be in the right headspace for such a thing. A lot of the game takes place within a hospital where you wait, and you wait, and you wait. It's a very slow game, but I think that's what it's trying to be, possibly what it needs to be, because that's what the hospital is, that it is waiting and waiting. The voice acting is really good too. These are the actual parents, and just how simple some of these voice memos are can still pull on your heartstrings.
Hey honey, we're on our way home from the hospital now, so if you wanted to preheat the oven starting in about 30 minutes, that would work, and we could throw in that lasagna. Do you know how they celebrate off-treatment day, like when kids are done with their treatments? I guess maybe you don't because you're not in the clinic as much as I am, but on someone's last day, they always bring them a cake and they sing Happy Off Therapy Day to you. Anyway, that happened today. I mean, it happens a lot, but today I cried. I just wanted that day so bad, you know? I just we're not ever gonna get that day. If he's better, we won't know that he's better. We don't get a day. Anyway, okay, call me if you can. There's probably traffic, so I could talk on my way home. Alright, bye.
The game does a good job capturing both parents' feelings, and even though their child, Joel, cannot speak, it surprisingly captures his feelings very well too. It captures fear and doubts and blind hope and hopelessness, and does it in a believable way because it was real. Hell, I admit it was stressful to me at times, because there's this part where Joel won't stop crying, and his dad is desperately trying to get him to stop, but Joel can't and won't. And there's nothing you can do to make it stop. It puts you in the shoes of being a helpless parent, hearing the cries, but being able to do nothing. And that was stressful. Well, I've never been a parent. I have been helpless. And they did a good job capturing that awful feeling. Now, the couple is religious in both game and in real life. They are Christian. And a lot of that is important to this game, with lots of praying and talking to the Lord and hoping for help. And while I may be an agnostic atheist, in situations like this, I just shut my opinions off. They need something to believe in, some form of hope, some form of love. I don't care what fucking religion you are. If you got deathbed shit going on, I will pray to your God to help you. Hell, even as an agnostic, I've cried out to all sorts of gods, hoping anything or anyone could hear me. And even though I have grown accustomed to the silence, I still hope. So I love that they included their religion here. I love they included their feelings, their faith, or sometimes their guilt or sadness. All of these feelings were real and genuine to them. I don't need to have everything relate to me to be able to feel those feelings. These are good people who love and care for their children, and this is a game that's able to convey that whole experience. Now, even though I have never had an experience like this, I will say I have had someone I know who died of cancer. He was a nicer, older man, and even though I wasn't that close to him, he had in his will that I would be his pallbearer. The only pallbearer, because he was in an urn. And that was wild to me, because I didn't know this guy that well. I didn't think I deserved it. I only had a handful of memories with this guy, so I was like, why me? And I still think about that sometimes, and I still think about him sometimes. And I do realize I'm getting off track. But also, this is my channel, and I can talk about whatever I want, and this is semi-relevant because it also deals with cancer. I don't know, he was a good guy. And I thank him for being in my life, and keeping me away from my father at the time, and teaching me how to cheat in poker. That was pretty cool too. Anyway, I think this is an interesting experience. I'm sure Joel was a great kid, and I wish the parents and everyone involved the best. I don't know whether I recommend this game or not. It is hard to say because of the kind of game it is. This is certainly not my usual style of game, but I for what it is, I think it's really good. It really does capture the parents' feelings and stuff. It does everything it was set out to do. And I think it ends on a really sweet note with Joel in a heaven-like place with a dog and endless pancakes. Whether this game is for you or not, only you can decide. I think it is an interesting game, not really the most fun thing to roleplay, but I do think it was really cool that it was made. Right off the bat, gonna apologize for the picture quality. It's hard as shit to record old PC games and have it come out looking exactly like what you're seeing. In this case, the recording gave me multiple recording screens, so I had to zoom in on one for the closest to what I was seeing. On top of that, the game's flickering a little in the recording, and it wouldn't let me access the menu unless I turned the graphics to its lowest setting, which sucks because my computer can totally run it. It just apparently wasn't compatible with such an old game. Anyway, I'm neither a Star Trek guy nor an RTS guy, and a ship combat RTS would not even be close to the first genre I would choose had I been put in charge of a Star Trek game. That said, I grew up with Star Trek Armada, and I still haven't found an RTS game I like more. Granted, I've only played a very small handful of titles in the genre, but still, it does so much right. First off, they got the voices. They actually have the actors from the show. They also have the looks, and the soundtrack is also pretty good. Second off, The story mode is a really good teacher of how to play the game. Not too handholdy and just enough explanation. It's a very simple RTS. Sure, there are many complicated elements, but I've never played one that I felt I understood so much as I do this one. Not only does it explain things well, but you can hover over any option for a while to have it give you more details. The story in simple terms is that the USS Premonition came from the future to warn us of a Borg invasion, and this means everyone's gotta fight. I mean, there's more to it than that, but as a non-Star Trek guy, there's a lot I can't explain and could only really guess. Like, I'm not sure exactly what the Sword of Kahless is. I don't know why it's giant. I don't know why it's floating in space. There's this thing called the Omega Particle. It's very important. I'm not really sure what it is. I don't know, man. I just follow my objectives. There are 4 playable races. Other races do exist, such as Dominion, Ferengi, and Species 1872, but they are not playable. The 4 playable races are the Federation, which I guess isn't a race, so maybe 4 playable factions sounds better. They got some cool-ass gadgets, such as the Gemini effect, which lets you create a temporary clone of a ship, a shield thing that can bounce your opponent's lasers back at them, and the ability to freeze time in a small area for a short amount of time. Next is the Klingon. They have a lot of offensive capabilities, such as buffs, fireballs, and a suicide bomber. Then we got the Romulans, which are my favorite. They can use stealth, which I forgot to mention Klingons also can. They also can give shields, they can absorb shields, and they also have a suicide bomber as well, but he has a better radius. Then there's the Borg. They can fucking capture ships easy by assimilating the crew, and if they're able to, they can capture construction ships from other faction and use them to have their race ability. Overall, the Borg and Romulan are my go-to. The game's pretty fun in short bursts, and it's pretty beginner-friendly for an RTS. It only has like 1 resource you need to manage. I guess 2. Crew and dilithium. On top of that, it lets you have a lot more of an army than a lot of other RTS games they've had. Usually they have a kind of tiny cap off, but Star Trek Armada does not, and I do like that. And rarely did I ever see it lag. Also, the amount of micromanaging I need to do is significantly lower than others. The AI still needs it, but not nearly as much. They do a lot better job attacking and protecting when I'm not around. And I can also leave my area and let them do stuff. I can have them guard areas, patrol areas, guard specific certain ships. There's a search and destroy option if I'm having trouble finding the remains of enemy. There's a scout option, which will just have them go in like random ways. It's good. Also, due to the way cutscenes are, I can do this.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I am Countess Valga of Coral. I wish I had time to...
Kiss Psycho Circus The Nightmare Child is a rather weird game. Now, I don't know a lot about the band Kiss, but I know they have their own lore and such. I'm just unsure how it ties in. This is a first-person shooter released on the Dreamcast and PC. I'm playing the PC port and actually got it running pretty well. The atmosphere of this game is phenomenal. I love how so many places look, and honestly, the look and style of the game is, in my opinion, where it shines the most. I love it. And I really love the skyboxes they have too. Very cool. On top of that, the enemies look great too. I love the designs. Now, the gameplay is just mediocre. It's not bad. It's not good. It's very fine. You pick a character. None of these are actually Kiss band members, but I guess they kind of resemble them. This is also dumb, because unless you pick Starbearer, the game tells you it's not wise to pick that character, because then you'll play the game out of order. There's 4 realms and 4 characters, and each goes to a specific realm, and each gets harder, so I don't even know why the character selection is just there. Just play as Starbearer first, since that's what the game wants you to do. Your goal is to get all the weapons and armor throughout each stage till you have them all. Then you fight a boss and you move on to the next character. You're sort of like the Avatar trying to master all the elements, so there's a water, earth, air, and fire realm, one for each character. And the characters are mostly the same, the only differences are their melee weapons, which you won't use most of the time, and their special weapons, which can be pretty cool. There are also sometimes kiss paintings around, or little kiss jokes, like Disco being dead. There's even plenty of copyrighted Kiss music in the game that I can't show you. So Kiss is definitely a thing in this game, but so much of it is just a first-person shooter with fantasy elements. A guy saw me playing this and was like, "Hey, is that Doom?" And I was like, "Oh no man, this is actually a first-person shooter based on the band Kiss." And he was like, "But how?" And fair enough, I wouldn't have guessed that either on first glance. But hey, I honestly really love how the game looks, and they killed the design in my opinion. I just wish the game wasn't so long. It felt like it was dragging. You don't just kill enemies, you destroy spawners. You don't just shoot, you also platform. And again, absolutely none of it was bad, but it just felt like it drug on and on. The level design was even good. Never once was I like, where the fuck am I supposed to go? It was straightforward. Maybe it's because FPS games aren't my favorite, but the style can only take you so far if the gameplay is just mediocre. I'm glad I played it. I had a good time. I just won't be playing it again. I just kept wishing for it to be over, and when I finally got all the elements and beat the fire boss, I was greeted with a 5th realm, and my heart fucking sank. I had to play more after I just finished 4 realms. No thank you. I've seen all I wanted to see. But it was a cool realm, and it was short, and you pick the character you liked most to head in. The final boss is surrounded in eyeballs, and you gotta destroy it for him to come out, and this is the Nightmare Child. And yeah, I'd say that is a nightmare. Kinda reminds me of that baby Freddy Krueger thing, if you know what I'm talking about. And once you beat him, he has a second form. Once, when I was in Missouri, I knew this guy who tried to set me up on a blind date and hook me up with this girl. And she looked about like this. Let me tell you, I fucking hate Missouri. Why do any of you live there? Fuck that place. Missouri could be the 6th realm. Anyway, the game ends with every monster dancing to God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which again, I can't show you because of the sound. Anyway, this game is fine. In a lot of ways, Star Trek Armada 2 is very much the first game, but with more. It also runs better, and by more, I do mean more. More ships, more things to build, more resources for the economy, more races. Also, a whole new campaign to boot, with improved visuals and gameplay. It's pretty cool. Economy-wise, we have 2 new materials to collect. Dilithium is still there, but now Latinum and Metal are there as well. And each thing needs different amounts of material for it. Trading stations are incredible. You can very quickly trade supplies you have large quantities of for supplies you have little of. You're basically playing Catan and Risk here. Colonizing planets is also a thing, which is how you get crew and officers for the ships you command. And, well, I'm not huge into Star Trek, I do know a little, and I feel like building fleets of ships to fight a war and colonizing planets feels a little weird for the Federation. Also, any damage you take to your ships or facilities is much more devastating than it was in the first game, so tiny repair ships can be created to fly with you. Now, the Federation, the Klingons, and the Romulans are all basically the same as the first game, but the Borg have had a couple massive changes. First off, Borg only need 2 of the 3 resources to build stuff, and their mining ships can mine it all, even metal. Whereas the others you have to make special things to mine metal. Second off, and the biggest thing that made them one of my favorite playable races, is now you can combine 8 Borg cubes into one giant ass cube. Borg cubes are already massive and giant, and it's like a floating star base, but 8 cubes combined into one is such a force of power, my god. And I would slowly just create small fleets of these combined cubes, and it's beyond devastating. But it's not like that means you should just give up if you see that. If you're the Federation, you can use the shields of those Enterprise-looking ships, and that will reflect all the damage back right at your cube. So everything the cube throws, it's throwing right back into itself, which can really backfire sometimes. Klingons and Romulans have those little nuke things you can use to wipe out a fleet of them if you got that. And if you can take out the cube's engines or life support, you can leave them stranded. And the Ferengi will come take your ship and scrap that. And that's scrapping 8 fucking cubes. It's a huge loss. There's also 2 new races. There's the Kardashians, who I gotta admit are not that amazing. They aren't bad, they just aren't very unique and are pretty close between the Klingons and Romulans, even having some of the same technology. The last race is my second favorite in the game, and since I'm not huge into Star Trek, this is what introduced me to them. Species 8472 is an organic species of ship. The starbase is the mothership and is alive, and she asexually reproduces embryos. The embryos can then go into a cocoon metamorphosis and evolve into other ships and stations that are all alive. And some stations can asexually reproduce bigger, more powerful ships that are also alive, and due to being alive, they don't need crew, they don't need metal or dilithium or anything. They mine things and convert it to biomatter, which is the only resource they need. Defensively, they don't have turrets, so that's a bummer, but offensively, they can amass a huge fleet far faster than anyone else. Plus, the idea of having living, breathing things that evolve into other things is really cool. It's wildly unique and I love it. Honestly, I prefer the second game for them being playable alone, but the first is still well worth it too. Blood is my favorite Doom clone. I actually like it even more than Doom. It was released in episodes by Monolith in the late 90s, and then compiled into Blood One Whole Unit, which is all the episodes as a full game. Blood Fresh Supply is a remaster of the original game, but not a remaster in the way it's usually done. The game and visuals basically the same, it's just running on a different engine so that it can run better on newer hardware. I played them both, but I like Fresh Supply better, simply for the fact it had more modern controls. I saw videos stating the differences between them and why the original's better, but Fresh Supply has had updates since then, and every issue I saw brought up has been fixed as of the time of playing, making there no real reason to not play Blood Fresh Supply. Either one you choose, you can't go wrong with. Like I said, they're basically the same game, it's just one is on a slightly different engine, so it runs better on newer hardware. Not only can you choose your own difficulty in it, but you can also make a customized difficulty, which is also interesting. The story follows Caleb as he gets revenge on demons who he worked with, as well as the ones responsible for his death. You shoot all sorts of enemies, from zombies to cultists to gargoyles, etc. Caleb throws out a lot of one-liners, and the game is sort of like a B-movie action horror, and I really like it. Caleb was also dual-wielding before Master Chief even considered doing so. The game is split up into episodes, with a demon boss at the end of each episode. The first episode is by far my favorite. I love every single level in it, and they are all well made and have cool atmospheres. You are given very little story, but despite that, in-game sequences can help you kind of create one in your own mind. Like, what is happening at this train station? Why are there innocent people without weapons who get killed and tortured throughout the game? Are you in hell? Are you in purgatory? Are you somewhere between the 1920s and 1940s, which might as well be purgatory? It's all very interesting. Not only does it create a fascinating world and fascinating enemies to fight, but just the way everything looks also really makes a very strong atmosphere. The skyboxes also really bring in an otherworldly feeling that I rarely feel. It's so easy to cross over to the feeling of like a stereotypical hell. But this wonderful blend of otherworldly and our world combined in this vaguely 1900s era really is a tricky thing to pull off that always feels worth it to me. The only other game that gave me the same feeling was Lunacy on the Sega Saturn, where you'd have constant feelings, maybe this is a dream, and some set pieces really gave me that vibe even more so. Like the beginning of this train level. Now this part you might disagree with, and that's understandable, as what I'm about to say is batshit wild, but this game gives me Indiana Jones vibes sometimes. At least the first 2 movies. And yes, I know that sounds stupid, but it's mainly the cult activity with gunfights set in a 1920s to 40s atmosphere. And also, little things like when I had to choose the right door or I'd die. Little things like that. Now, it's only a hint of indie. I'm not saying this is an Indiana Jones game, but the game does reference a lot of movies. The main ones I saw were Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and The Shining, but I'm sure there was tons more. The first episode was also my favorite and had a carnival level that I loved, with different carnival games like kick the zombie head into the mouth. The boss is a gargoyle. Episode 2, however, is far weaker for me. We spend a lot of time outside in the snow and the atmosphere just doesn't feel as good for me. Well, we don't spend all our time there because we do fight in the Overlook Hotel a bit. The frozen ice and snow is where we mainly are, and the level design just isn't as good. Like, it starts fine and progressively just gets a little worse. Now, we do get more enemies. We got these big zombies who vomit on you like Left 4 Dead boomers, and we got these fucking hands and these spiders and such, and all are welcome. We also have this cool new weapon of a voodoo doll you can stab to hurt any enemy. It costs a tiny bit of your health in return, but sometimes it can be worth it. Also, the atmosphere isn't totally different. We still have the things that make it great, like hanging bodies and such. Or this part that's totally from Indiana Jones at the Temple of Doom. Our boss here is a spider who shoots out little spiders while you fight, and this one was far harder than the first. Episode 3 brings back that atmosphere I like, but the level design starts good and gets progressively worse, so that's annoying. The attention to detail is always high in Blood, though. If you shoot gargoyles before they turn not stone, they still spill blood, letting you realize they're alive before they even turn into what they are. And some of the best moments were this bombing scene, making me have a lot more questions about what's going on. Like, is this happening during World War II? Is this a dream of World War II? What? More new enemies are added, like hellhounds, and honestly, every enemy that's added in each episode just works for me. They're all good, not a single flop. Another cool area is the hospital. I love it a lot, and how I love the vibes it gives, and I love the attention to detail. On the bad side, we got sewer levels. Has there ever been an enjoyable sewer level, especially in a first-person shooter? Doubtful. And this one ramps up in puzzles too, which seems to be what sewer levels do. Which, if you like puzzles, hey, then this is nice. But if you're like me, who's playing a first-person shooter for the first-person shooting part, and not the puzzles, then it might get a little annoying. Because I like to go around and play the game. I don't like to walk in circles for 10 minutes going, now what thing did I miss here? Fortunately, it's not nearly as bad as first-person shooters of this time period. You could figure it out after wandering around for a while. I rarely ever had to look up anything to be like, hey, how do I get past this? But it still is annoying. This was also the first episode where a game glitch caused me to restart. You have to collect keys in every level, which is normal for first-person shooter games of this period, but one time during an explosion the key clipped through a wall, so I kept trying to find it and I couldn't. I just assumed it was somewhere around there, and I kept looking because that's what the bad level design makes you do. Every time you are confused on what to do, you just go to the same places like over and over again, looking at every fucking tiny little detail. And after not finding it, I restarted the level and found out it was not my fault, it was the key. But I just don't like that kind of level design, is I guess what I'm saying. I don't like to try to figure out what the game wants. Again, it's not as bad as it is in other first-person shooters of this time period. I'd take Blood over something like the Dark Forces 2 game, especially the DLC, any fucking day. Because this really only happened once, though. The level made it easy to get the key I needed. I recommend having at least a couple saves. The boss here, I think, was glitched because he was a bit too easy. Episode 4 does the same thing in level design, where it starts good and it slowly gets worse. Specifically, I really hate all the underwater exploration, although this area here did give me a cool Bioshock vibe. And this one keeps that good atmosphere, and adds some like mad scientist stuff, like brains or jars or electric little rods and such. It also has some of the coolest visuals in the game, and an entire level that feels like you are inside of a body, and I really like that. Or don't, I don't know, but I wouldn't like to be inside of a body, but I like the level idea of being inside one. It's some good horror shit. I also learned that different bosses are far weaker to some guns than other. That should have been a no fucking brainer to me, but it did take quite a while to learn. Because as the Tommy gun was pathetic against big spiders, but was doing so good against everything else, the electric gun just ripped through them. The electric gun's probably the best fucking gun in the game, honestly. The final boss has you fight all previous bosses before him, and then he fucking comes at you and hits like a motherfucking truck. You gotta fire and run, that's your only option. Don't get hit, you don't even really got time to hide, you just fire, run, duck. The game also has some ugly-ass cutscenes, but I rather enjoy them. Now, once you finish, there is a bonus episode content, but it really doesn't pertain to the main story, and maybe it was DLC or something. I'm not really sure, but it's fine. It was my least favorite, but it was totally fine. Anyway, Blood, it's really good, and no matter what version you play, it's worth playing. Game Dev Simulator is a simulator running your own gaming company, starting from your garage with just you and working your way up to bigger, better places and having employees. It is basically our timeline, but slightly different. Like instead of Xbox, it's Mbox, or the Mbox 360. But the generations and how well each console does are parallels to our own universe. But which I do like, but also I wish there was like a randomizer mode, so you had to deal with the uncertainty of if a console will succeed. Cause I just stayed away from the ones I know historically in our timeline didn't do well, cause I knew the game also wouldn't. Making a game gives you a bunch of different sliders, of options, of where you would like to allocate your time into the game. And you can also research and practice you or your employees so that they can get better. Now, it's not like, oh, you can put an in-depth thing. It's more like you choose action game on the PC. It's rated this, and it has graphics 100, sound 50, etc., you know? Like, you don't really, like, write a story. You might put, like, story 100 or whatever. But if you allocate 100% of your time into that story, you have less time to allocate into more stuff, if that makes sense. So it gives you different sliders, and you got to decide where you want to put those sliders. And while it semi makes sense sometimes, I noticed that it really seems to like you going to extremes. You can't be like, oh, I'll go 50-50 on these and then like 100 in these. I mean, you can, but the game seems to like me going 100 in something and 0 in something else. If I went to go into an RPG, it might be like, you need to put 100 into this and 0 into sound, which was crazy to me because soundtracks are such a huge part of RPGs to be. When I think of some of the best music of video games, RPGs are where my mind goes. Whatever, I guess, whatever. For the most part, it makes kind of sense. But I feel like there's definitely tweaking that needs to happen. And that being said, even if you do go all in into one, it's hard to get the numbers to consecutively fall in your favor. And you don't seem to want to make the same kind of games over again. Like, if I was to pretend to be Bungie and make Halo 1, then Halo 2, then Halo 3, I'd probably go out of business in this game. Because you need to, like, constantly be doing variety, it seems. If you make 2 games of the same exact kind in a row, that's bad for you in this, I guess. But even still, I couldn't always tell you what would succeed, what wouldn't. It was weird. My RTS game, Age of Various Leaders, it did awful, but it sold well, whereas PTSD Simulator not only sold poorly, but reviewed poorly too. And it costs a lot of money to make games, which is why you can work for companies, and I chose to never do that because I like freedom, but if money got low, what choice you got? Also, there's contract work you can do, and deciding if the contracts are even doable is also part of the strategy, because you can lose money if you fail the contract. Bringing in more and more employees helps the burden of work, but also the bigger the place, the more expensive. And good ratings also really boost your fan base, even if you don't know what made one successful and not the other one. Games like Everything is Green, my fashion game on the original Game Boy, where everything is green, did well and kept business afloat somehow. And my prized game, Halo, got amazing reviews. You can also build custom engines for games, do marketing, go to G3 conventions, which is just E3, and do interviews to really get the game going. On top of that, having your employees means you can give them some of the work for the bigger games, and strategically put people on different development parts of the game based upon their skills. My biggest complaint is that some of the numbers and way of calculating things can be vague, so you can really only learn with trial and error. There are just times I felt confused on why a thing worked or didn't work, and wanted clarification. There's also a pirate mode, which people can pirate your games. It's like a hard mode, and I think it's close to unwinnable, and this is the best piracy protection I've ever seen. Do you know how bad I'd feel if I stole a game and saw that mode? Game Developer Simulator is a game that's pretty fun for an evening, and targets a more casual, cozy crowd, and I do recommend it. The 9 Monkeys of Shaolin is a smaller budget game from Sobaka. It's always nice to have good non-AAA games being made. This one's a beat-em-up set in mystical China. You can also play co-op, which you know is very important to me when it comes to beat-em-up. The different characters are really just the same character in terms of movesets. You do unlock items that can change your character a little bit, but for the most part, your characters just slightly look different in how they look and based upon the items that you give them. And while Gage and I started as basically the same character, we ended up with entirely different characters. It's also clear that player 1 is far more important. Most of the time the camera would try its best to care about both players. In between levels, our tiny hub world stopped caring about player 2 altogether. Even worse was this garbage fire level where you had to rescue everyone in a short amount of time while fighting enemies. But what made it so bad was how focused on player 1 it was, that it was easy to leave player 2 off the screen. If you've played Sonic 2, you know how it focuses on Sonic and not Tails. That's kind of how this is here for this level. And it caused us to lose multiple times until we learned to never use moves that could move us very much, which isn't a thing I wanted to have to do. The game is hard-ish. You will die, and to be revived takes forever. But it isn't, like, unfair, except that one fire level. The game also isn't the most polished. There's a lot of glitches, from your player shaking to guys who get stuck in walls, which I honestly kind of enjoy. But there were times where the game crashed and we would have to restart. And there were other times where the camera broke and wouldn't let us continue, or let the enemies get to us. Honestly, just fix the camera angles and that covers 90% of my issues with the game. Moving away from that though to the good stuff, the game plays pretty well. There are different teas you can pick up which do different things. Like one is a health pickup, And rather than you just eating it immediately, you can choose when to use it. And I really like this idea, and I wish more beat-em-ups had it. There's also blocking mechanics, which you have to time, and this brought me back to the good old Jedi Power battle days, especially when blocking enemies with guns. Also, many locations can have good scenery changes and cool lighting and gimmicks. I will say, it can be easy to accidentally look at the wrong character though in certain lightings. But the combat is decent, and the levels are decent, and when you really start doing well and working as a team, you feel badass as hell. The final boss was alright, and I guess I'd say this game is good. Not great, not a must play, but if you're into beat 'em ups, you will still have a good time with it, and it is a fun, good game. The Oregon Trail. Yes, the Oregon Trail, not the Oregon Trail. This is a zombie parody based off the Oregon Trail. You travel the apocalyptic wasteland with these old school looking graphics. In many ways, it is similar to the game it parodies. You gotta keep the party alive while managing supplies and trying to reach your destination. Instead of hunting, you have scavenging, where you go out and kill zombies and look for supplies. The gun control sucks ass, but I think it was done that way purposefully to make you have to take extra time to aim so that the zombies are more menacing. You can also get infected and become a zombie, and so can your crew, and then you get to decide if they were worth the supplies to keep around. Or if you should put them down because there is no cure and they could become a zombie. The game is pretty tongue-in-cheek and doesn't take itself too seriously. It has some good music, it has good design. It's really just the Oregon Trail but with zombies. There's also a repair system with scrap metal. Scrap metal ends up being extremely useful, and you should abuse the fuck out of it, because not only can it fix your car, but you can also sell lots of leftovers for a really good profit, and that'll keep you with a lot of money throughout the game. You just gotta scavenge a lot. On top of that, the game also has events, just like in the old game, with some of them being playable, like one where there's deer and you don't want to get hit, or a bike one where you do want to hit the bikers. The ending is easier depending on how many party members you have, but basically the more the better, as you gotta get a bunch of fuel cans in a heavy zombie infested area. The Men Who Wear Many Hats did a good job with this game, and if you like the Oregon Trail and Zombie Apocalypse games, you should give this one a try. What immediately attracted me to Mayham Brawlers was the art style. It's very similar to the gorgeous Streets of Rage 4 art style, and it's a beat 'em up and it looks great. And after playing it, I can also say it feels great. It's not as polished as some, but it is still very good. Both gorgeous visuals and good gameplay. So this has got to be one of my favorite beat 'em ups, right? Well, despite it being good, there is a couple things holding it back, and the main thing is the writing. It's so bad. I get that beat 'em ups aren't like known for their writing, obviously, but this one's bad in a bad way, not in a funny way, in an enjoyable way, in a very cringy way. And while I attempted to make it through the story, halfway through I ended up just skipping all the cutscenes because it was too damn cringy. And honestly, that made the game better, to just play the game without those cutscenes. The cutscenes work as if they were our female main character's social media story. It's really cringy and doesn't feel like it was written by anyone even close to the age she's supposed to be. On the flip side, you got an old guy who's also out of touch. You also have Dolphin, and he's fine, no complaints there. Now this whole young kid and old fart, who both aren't great but teach each other to be better trope, has been done before. It's a good trope, I love it. It worked well in Cobra Kai, at least a couple of seasons of Cobra Kai, and then and other shows. The issue here being that it's pure cringe, and these characters never don't suck, and they're hard to listen to. And you ever watch a show just targeted towards young adults and teens that just kind of really misses that mark and feels kind of, how do you do, fellow kids? That's kind of how this writing feels. At one point, my favorite character says some baffling shit, and she's not my favorite character based on dialogue. She's my favorite character based on her moveset. First, she calls us SJWs, which is weird because we are cops, and SJW, standing for Social Justice Warrior, is usually a term used by right wing to refer to the left negatively. This is strange as, again, we are cops, and cops are usually right wing, and SJW is usually referred to someone who's like not actually a warrior, someone who's like on a keyboard all the time or something, but we are cops literally punching people. So, whatever. But then, not even seconds later, not even like a minute later, she says, "A cab."
Wish I was wearing my ACAB t-shirt today.
But she doesn't even say A cab, she says ACAB, which no one has ever said it that way. I've never heard anyone say it that way. It's always A cab. ACAB being all cops are bastards, and this is extra weird as ACAB tends to be a very leftist thing to say, as the right tends to be more cop approving. So these two sentences thrown within seconds of each other can only mean one of two things. Either she is very centrist in political affiliation and all who are against her ideology are bad, or the writers just did not know what they were saying and were just throwing out buzzwords. Anyway, doesn't matter, because if you just skip all the dialogue, it's honestly just a fun game. It also has a lot of supernatural elements, which isn't my thing, but it's not bad and helps separate itself from Streets of Rage and other beat-em-ups. On top of that, there are a couple different level branching paths you can take, like in Golden Axe 3 or Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom, and this really adds to the replayability, as you won't see all levels until you've done a second playthrough and go through the ones you haven't been to before. There is a lot of fun to be had here. The art is good, there are guns, the fighting's good, the music isn't bad at all. This one isn't a must play, but if you pick it up, you are going to have a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. Unpacking is a fabulous and very charming game. I didn't think it would be up my alley, and how could it? A game about unpacking items into homes? How could that be fun? Well, it somehow is, and it's fun in a different way than most games I play. This one's cozy, it's relaxing, it's slow. Its gorgeous soundtrack pulls you into a sense of calm while the uncomplicated gameplay keeps you there. I played this with Ashley and we did different rooms. One part of the charm is just figuring out what stuff is and where it would be best to go. The second part of the charm, the main part that keeps me going, is unpacking the items actually tells you a lot about the person. And each time they move, what comes with them and what they leave behind tells you even more. Example, in her childhood, this girl, she had the soccer ball, she had the soccer trophy, but the older she gets, the more that soccer passion is gone. But some things are just too hard for her to leave behind, like her stuffed animals. It gave us a lot to talk about while we speculated about her. It also brought a bunch of nostalgic memories, like how fucking massive computers used to be. The monitor would take up so much space on the desk. And then to jump ahead of time and see her with her new place in a much smaller, flatter monitor, it's just the best. Straight up, I did not realize how much a person's stuff could say about them until I went through this random stranger's stuff multiple times. It's storytelling in a way where it tells you about them but also leaves things to your imagination. I also like how her game consoles kept getting newer and newer as the years went on, and which one she had also said a lot. And I just highly recommend Unpacking for a quiet, lazy day of gaming. So Baka, the company that brought us 9 Monkeys of Shaolin, comes up swinging even harder with their second game. At first I saw its top-down angle and I was like, I don't know about this. But don't judge a book by its cover, because this game fucking rocks. Not only is it a strong beat-em-up, but it has fun, unique controls. You can counter attacks, and you can dodge roll, and you can use the environment to kill. You got kill animations and weapons, both melee and guns. And the gun aiming works with the right stick, while movement works with the left. And it just is the most beautiful combo. It honestly feels so badass to play. You are an ex-military monk, which I think was the plot of at least one action film I've seen. Your military group finds you and they start executing your monastery. Player 2 plays as an unnamed monk who will never be addressed, and it's almost like he isn't there story-wise, but gameplay-wise, he's doing great things. In fact, the coolest things happen in co-op. Not just working together as a kick-ass team, but you can also stealth kill together as well, and it's badass. Now, I will say the camera is far better single player, but it wasn't awful on multiplayer. The only real issues we ran into in multiplayer was a god-awful lag in one level. But it was just one level, and the rest of the game seemed fine. Fighting human enemies is where it's at. A quarter of the game has you fighting zombies, and while that's a fine concept, they don't have nearly as many animations for killing. On top of that, not being stunned like humans, so you can do the kill animations. Again, the zombies were absolutely fine, but fighting the humans is where the blood and gore is really fucking at, and it also feels most polished and fun there. The boss fight against your ex-partner is cool, because you spend this whole level fighting within these walls, only to have him destroy them to make him seem intimidating. The final boss is our old commander. He's now this gross thing trapped in goo. This game has a lot of different elements other than action. The variety of weapons and variety of moves is cool. And like I said, this is a badass beat 'em up. It ended up being, honestly, one of my favorite beat 'em ups, and I'm sure I'll be back again. It's not so much the story that hooks you, which is how most beat 'em ups are, really. It's more so how badass you feel and how ruthless your enemies are that really gets the game pumping.
Someone gave these men orders.
There he is, the traitor! I got him!
Yeah!
I started the game being kinda iffy, but by the second level I was so in love with this game, and I really think this is a huge improvement from the last game. It makes me very excited to see what kind of beat 'em ups they make next. Medal of Honor European Assault follows the fictional character Holt as he travels throughout World War II, fighting tons of battles. And though the battles really did happen, gone is the historical accuracy that the first Medal of Honor prided itself on. This one seems to be fictionalized in this strange version of World War II. Not just the crazy stuff you pull off, but also how you deal with it. Now, I'm not saying that's bad, just that this is no longer trying to be what it once was, and now is more of a fantasy version of World War II. For example, the game has a ton of med packs for healing. You can command and heal your soldiers. Most interestingly, you have an adrenaline mode that once full, you can become invincible and have unlimited ammo for a short amount of time. There's also boss Nazis in each level who take more health and more bullets and are much harder to kill than the others. And even a main boss Nazi, who I guess has been watching your every move and running tests on you, like what the fuck?
William Holt. Yes, I know who you are. I have made you a study of mine. My men never really appreciated you. That was their downfall, I think. I, however, have found you a worthy adversary. At old games, as they end.
So yeah, this is World War II, but like, you're more like a comic book super soldier going through World War II with an arch nemesis. And while that isn't bad, if I wanted a more fantastical, more ungrounded fictional World War II game, I'd play Wolfenstein. This game doesn't really even need to exist. I had fun playing it as a kid, but now it feels kind of dated and unneeded. For example, the shoot button is R1, and in almost all shooters present day, it's R2. So I kept going to press R2 only to have it pull out grenades. Because unlike current games, grenades was like its own weapon slot rather than something you could just throw. Now this wouldn't be an issue if I could just set the controls to like where I wanted them, but weirdly this game only has set control options, and I don't like any of them. On top of that, it just doesn't feel good. Eventually I got used to it and its controls, and it was much better, but that first few levels felt like shit. Honestly, I still think the first few levels suck. The game for me shined the most when I was given a sniper rifle or places I could bunker down, hide, and fight the enemy before moving on. And it felt worst when I had to charge into groups of men with a machine gun, guns a-blazing, which is weird because you'd think they'd both be fun, but they aren't. On top of that, the game is just kinda glitchy. Basically, if you want historically World War II, this isn't for you. Play OG Medal of Honor. If you want fast-paced gunplay with a military setting, Call of Duty's a better choice. If you want fantasy World War II, Wolfenstein is a better choice. I still enjoy this game, but I don't see a reason to come back to it. And one more thing, the girl here is the same one you play as in Medal of Honor Underground. So that's really cool, I guess, but I had no idea it was her the whole time. It wasn't until after I finished the game that a Wikipedia article told me. The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog was released April 1st, but it wasn't a joke. Sega gave us a free Sonic game. Now, it wasn't a regular mainline game, it was a spin-off and a point-and-click visual novel style of game. The kind of game you see in so many fan-made projects. But this was a free, officially licensed Sega product. I'm all for spin-offs for Sonic. I wish he was having more regularly. The plot being that it's Amy's birthday, and that she has invited a good chunk of the Sonic characters aboard the train. It's most of the beloved ones, but not all of them. And best of all, she didn't include Big the Cat, which already makes this game better. Now on this train, a murder mystery happens, and you play as an anthropomorphic animal. And ever since getting Barry, I now name my character Barry every time I have to play as some sort of animal, which led to some moments of me chuckling to myself like a weirdo, imagining the characters talking to my dog. Voice-wise, there was no voice acting, which is totally fine for a visual novel type game, plus this was free. I also think the character designs and basically all the visuals have a unique style, and I really appreciated it. You end up helping Tails try to solve the murder mystery of who killed Sonic. For the point and click part, there really isn't anything you can fail at. Tails won't let you continue until you've picked up every important clue. But then there are these strange looking platformers on a thing called the Dream Gear, which I assume is a mix of the Dreamcast and the Game Gear, so that's kinda neat. This wasn't the only Sega pat on the back they gave themselves, as they also talk about Monkey Ball, which not only works to advertise Monkey Ball, but also I love Monkey Ball, and it is now canonically in the Sonic universe, meaning Sonic is canonically in the Shenmue universe with Monkey Ball canonically in the Sonic universe. That means Monkey Ball is a game in the Sonic universe connected to the Shenmue universe, which is a game in our universe, and Sega is a sneaky boy. Anyway, back to the Dream Gear platforming stuff. You have to do this every time you need to come up with an answer while interrogating these characters. Sort of like Jimmy Neutron having a brain blast, except you can just fail. You just do it over and over again until you win. That and point and click are the main gameplay. Talking and interrogating each member gives each character their own screen time, so that's pretty great. Writing-wise, it's like a lot of Sonic media. There's really weak, cringy parts and also really good parts. I know I'm older than the target demographic, but there were still a few good jokes in here I enjoyed. Cringe-wise, It's really just a couple lines, but also your main character's internal dialogue is really annoying to me. But good writing moments exist in plentiful here, even if they are kinda dumb. Like at one point a bomb is going to go off, so I tell Rouge to kiss it, like that's gonna do anything, but then she does, and nothing happens, and it's way funnier to me than it should have been. There's also this joke where they are confused how Emmy got a weapon on the train when they checked in, cause no weapons are allowed, and she's just like, it's cause it's my birthday, and everyone just accepts that, and they move on. Also, Knuckles is wearing a hat like he did in the 1990s Sonic movie OVA, and I love that. Now, if you don't want spoilers, you should leave now, but here they are. The murderer was Espio, but also nobody cares because it doesn't matter because that's not really important because it turns out this whole time we were in real danger. You see, the conductor of the train was planning to retire, but it turns out the train was a badnik with a flicky inside. And it has a bit of sentience. Lots of these trains work for Eggman, and Eggman promised that if anyone could capture Sonic, he would grant them a reward. Well, the train has fallen in love with the conductor, and while it seems platonic in the way the train uses the word friend, and the obsessive and very grabby actions of the train, I'd say the train wants far more than friendship. It has kidnapped the conductor who is begging for help, and is taking Sonic and friends to Eggman as prisoners in order to collect the reward, which he wants to be to not let the conductor retire. I don't know how Eggman would provide this, maybe by roboticizing the conductor, but the train nonetheless wants this bad enough to fight Sonic and friends. And while Sonic is fighting the train in that little platforming minigame, the train is begging and pleading that it doesn't want to be lonely, and that it's been with the conductor for like 30 years, and that the train needs this in order to be happy. But Sonic and gang aren't going to die for this, and they fight the train and win, and then the train apologizes, if that will somehow make it better, because he doesn't want to be decommissioned. And I know the train is a villain, but I do hope he gets a nice new conductor. Anyway, what a wild twist. Also, the conductor was married this whole time. I also enjoy some of his lines, though. When I said we would be together forever, I was a much younger man. Anyway, it was a super weird-ass story, but I really enjoyed it. Will I come back to this game? Most likely not. This isn't my kind of game. But do I recommend this? Oh, for sure. If you like Sonic, it's a short, neat little spin-off game, and I hope more spin-off games of different genres happen. Justice League Heroes is the DC version of Marvel's Ultimate Alliance. Unfortunately, though, Ultimate Alliance is a far better game. The first thing that hurts it is there's only 2 players and not 4. This one isn't huge, but it is important for this kind of game. The second thing is, for half the game, you don't get to choose your characters, and you are assigned them. The later half you do get to choose, but still you have to go through hours of the game before even getting to pick a team. And by the time you do, it's a team of 2. The final thing is that the AI is not good at all. All that being said, this isn't a bad game. I had quite a lot of fun with it, and it has some neat, unique items. Like the fusion system, where you can fuse different orbs together to make more powerful versions, and then add those orbs to a character to make them more powerful, even when they have already leveled that stat up to its max. I also like that it has blocking, which is really useful when playing as Wonder Woman, as she can block bullets right back into an enemy. It has alternate costumes, it has civilians to save, and best of all, it's got Batman. Batman in this game was played by Ron Perlman, which is an interesting choice.
Follow Brainiac's commands, but it deliberately leaked an easily traceable energy signature.
And look, I love Ron. I think he's absolutely fantastic, but I don't feel it the way I do with Kevin Conroy. I just don't feel Ron Perlman as Batman. The main villain in this game is Brainiac, but also Darkseid. Who could have seen that coming? When aren't they the main villains? Well, I guess they aren't the main villains when Joker or Lex Luthor are the main villains, but... Anyway, the level variety here is pretty good. My favorite being when the team got trapped into another dimension and you have to use portals to figure out a maze to escape. Normally I don't enjoy portals, but this whole fucking level being one big puzzle somehow did it for me. Plus the enemies were unique here. The bosses are pretty mediocre, but Darkseid is really cool as you get to make a team of 8 to fight him. And every time one dies, the next member of your team shows up. Also, at one point, Wonder Woman wears armor and has a fucking sword, and it is badass. She looks more like Hawk Girl than Hawk Girl. Overall, the game is a good one, but it doesn't really compare to what Marvel had released. Mad Max was originally going to be a tie-in with Fury Road, but plans fell apart, allowing it to be its own thing, for better or for worse. The plot follows you as Max, who needs to build a special car so he can defeat a man named Scrotus, who has a horn on his dick. With the help of your sidekick, Dinky D, a dog that helps you find mines, and that's all it can do, and Chumbucket, a hunchback that most likely fucks your car while you are busy. Mad Max is an open-world game set in the post-apocalypse. Despite not being tied to Fury Road visually and enemy-wise, it looks very, very much like Fury Road. The main forms of gameplay include driving. This could just be getting from one spot to another, or having road battles, or racing, which I absolutely hate in this game, and also destroying convoys. Destroying convoys is probably the most fun to me, but the fact that they go in a circle seems a bit silly, like they don't have a destination. Combat is similar to the free flow combat in Arkham, except your window of reaction is like a lot smaller than in that game. So you for sure do not want to play it as if you're playing Arkham, or you will get your ass kicked. You gotta block a lot more, and tapping attack and holding attack do different levels of damage and have different speeds. On top of that, Max has a rage mode where he can take out enemies much quicker and use special execution moves. Now again, it's not Arkham levels, but it's like similar-ish, and I really enjoy it. Honestly, the combat's my favorite part of the game, as it is pretty damn good. Boss-wise, all the bosses are basically the same. You got two types. You got big boys who you gotta roll away from and you gotta hit from behind, and you got these knife lads who you have to counter and then beat on. Story-wise, not a lot of story here. Kinda wish there was more, but oh well. Gameplay-wise, there's just a shit ton of stuff to do. And yeah, it's like the same 10 things over and over again, but most of them are fun enough that that's not a big problem. One thing I don't like about this game is leveling up. Rather than gaining XP for things you do, in this game, every time you beat 10 challenges, you level up. Challenges will be something like, collect 10,000 scrap, which is your currency, or kill an enemy 100 times with a car. Stuff like that. I honestly hate it. It makes the level up super infrequent. Like in my playthrough, there was hours without a level up. And then suddenly, within 1 hour, I leveled up twice. Point being, XP, in my opinion, is still the best way for level ups. One cool thing in the game is sometimes storms happen. I mean, it was cool the first time. By the 30th time, I was like, please stop. I just want to finish my mission. The game also needs some more work on it, for sure. It can be buggy with aiming and hit detection, and it can have frame rate issues, like really bad frame rate issues. I also noticed sometimes my stats wouldn't show up unless I fucked around, and sound would cut out sometimes. And one time I hit a man so hard he became a tumbleweed. Overall, Mad Max is good, but I wouldn't say it's great. Like maybe a 7.5 out of 10. Still worth a play, but I did not fall in love with it. Huntdown is a relatively new game released in 2020 by Easy Trigger Games, who has only released this game. The game looks like a 90s Sega Genesis game mixed with a bunch of 80s action tropes, which I guess is what Sega Genesis games were doing. They were in the 90s doing 80s action tropes. It kind of reminds me of eSWAT or Shinobi, or even closer, RoboCop vs. Terminator, and it really does a good job giving me those Sega Genesis vibes. Except one thing. I think it's actually better. I love the Genesis era, I love its games, but my god, man, Huntdown far exceeded my expectations. It fucking killed it. I went in expecting mediocre, just another indie title that was trying to capitalize off of nostalgia, but no fucking way, man. I came out hailing this as a masterpiece. Everything is so good. The intro comes in kicking ass. Listen to this.
But there are some that have no interest in gang affiliations nor company citizenship. They only pledge allegiance to the highest bidder. Their title, Bounty Hunter. Their only objective, hunt down.
So you are a bounty hunter. You pick between one of three, and the game is co-op as well, so I played with Gage, and honestly, I didn't play it single player, but I guarantee it's much better co-op because this game is so fucking fun. There are tons of weapons, including melee ones like a sword. There are also different explosives you can use.
I'm not part of the scenery. I'm about to blow your mind.
So many different ways for dodging and taking cover. It's just such a well-designed game. On top of that, it's more forgiving than a Genesis game with lots of health and checkpoints and a guy named Tony who will heal you. You can also revive each other. Now it's still challenging though, and it has many difficulties, so if you want to bump it up and make it pure Genesis hardness, you can, but for me, I had it at like the perfect amount of challenging. It was so good. And it was never unfair. The bosses were some of the best bosses I've ever faced. To me, a boss should challenge you on everything you've learned while being exciting and unique enough to differentiate from the other bosses. And these bosses nail that. It was always fun figuring out how to take a boss down, and like I said, they were fucking unique as shit. Gage's favorite boss was this hilarious Elvis impersonator. And I think mine was Psychonaut, who's this blowtorch guy, but at a certain point he gets lit on fire and he fucking runs around like a maniac. The game screams 80s action cheese, and I'm all for it. It takes itself seriously while at the same time being very silly. Like, one boss is named Unholy Goalie, and he's menacing as fuck.
Tonight, we will rip the hearts from our enemy and leave them bleeding in the streets because they cannot stop us! What now? Brothers and sisters, some uninvited guests made it to the show. Let's give them a proper introduction, shall we?
But also, like, when you think about it, he's just a giant roided hockey player. I don't know, it's perfect. The game can be gory, it can be badass. but it's also dumb as shit.
Someday you folks might be as good as I am.
You are such a killer, Dean.
Looks that kill too, baby.
Yeah. You are so mean, Dean.
That's my name, honey.
Like everybody totally wants to be like you, Dean.
All right, baby, that's enough.
Oh, Dean, you're so cool. Faster, Dean, faster.
I think what separates it from bad writing is it knows it's dumb and it's kind of playing into that, but not too heavy-handedly. In between missions, you have this cool car TV to display your bounty and info about them and pick levels and such. But if you look at the finer details, that's where the funny is. These 80s action heroes fucking thumbtacked a sticky note to metal and failed many times to do so before finally getting it. And it's a sticky note. That's funny as shit. Not to mention the peace sign in the car, while at the same time doing shit like this.
Explosive personality.
And Huntdown has gorgeous music.
Humans are so frail.
It hits that balance of a bit of cheese, but outrageous seriousness and gore and action. I'd say in the vein of something like RoboCop, or Commando, or Terminator, or Cobra. Honestly, most 80s action flicks. And goddamn, I love this game, man. I really hope Easy Trigger makes another game soon, because this was fucking killer. I keep wondering how the hell are they gonna make this next boss unique but also fun, and they always delivered. Always fucking amazing. This is a game that feels like it was made for me. I will fucking praise this game forever. I don't even think I have bad things to say about it. Oh wait, I do. It ended. That's a bummer. But they left room for a sequel. Spoiler alert. Leave now if you don't want to hear. I'll give you some time. 3, 2, 1. Our person giving us assignments was trying to get us killed. And they failed. And now they are gonna die. And we are about to have a bunch of bounty hunters come after us.
However, all contracts must be honored. And I believe my retirement from this company is imminent. A contract is still a contract. And a rose is still a rose. Wolf Mother.
How fucking cool is that? Oh my god! Can't wait. I need the second game now. What started as a mod for Half-Life in 2013 became a game. This game is an experience, a game that I believe should have no spoilers before playing it. There's one movie that I also believe should never have any spoilers before seeing it, and that is Swiss Army Man. And there is one game that I believe should never have any spoilers before playing it, and that is the Stanley Parable. I will say you don't have to worry about difficulty. If that's something that scares you off, you will be fine. There really is no difficulty. However, I will say this should not be your first game, as many things in the game will be lost on you if you're not a gamer. And with that, I recommend you leave this video to play the game. If, however, you still need more than that, I suppose I could spoil just a little. But again, I prefer you're going into it blind. So I'll give you 10 seconds to click away from the video, and if you have not done so, I will spoil it a little. Also, if you've already played, and you're wondering is the Ultra Deluxe worth playing, I will provide a timestamp for you. For everyone else, leave or wait 10 seconds.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Alright, so the Stanley Parable is all about choice, and players who choose what the game tells them and what the game doesn't tell them. There's a ton of different situations that can happen based upon what you choose. On top of that, you also have a witty narrator with plenty of commentary and quite a lot of different dialogue based on how you play. The game in some way is also anti-video game, which I don't know how to explain without spoiling. Let me give you one scenario of spoiler so you can see what's going on. Just one. At one point, if instead of doing the story as you're supposed to, if you just chill in a broom closet, this happens.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here. It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA. Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused. You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it. Maybe to you this is somehow its own branching path. Maybe when you go talk about this with your friends you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favourite." I hope your friends find this concerning. Stanley was fat and ugly and really stupid. He probably only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers. Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed in front of your screen. Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead. They have fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them. All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway. Ah, second player, it's good to have you on board. I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person who came before you. You too? Unbelievable. I'm at the mercy of an entire species of invalids. Perhaps there's a monkey nearby you can hand the controls to. A fish? Fungus? Look, you can hammer out the details. I'm not particularly picky. I'll just be waiting for when you're ready to pick up the story again.
And there's just a ton of different things that can happen based on what you choose to do. I really think it's worth it. You can leave this video to go buy it. Now, if you're looking to play on a console, a re-release of Stanley Parable came out in 2022 called the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. This is on consoles, this is on Steam, it might be on the Switch, I don't know. The Ultra Deluxe version has tons of new content. It basically doubles the content the old one had. On top of that, you can still play the old version in most of its glory. Not quite all of it. One of my favorite scenes was changed, but I'm thinking it's for like a copyright reason, because I haven't noticed a change in any other experience. But yeah, now the content is basically doubled. Not just with the new stuff to do, but also now the old stuff can be changed around based upon the new stuff that's in the game. Last spoiler. Remember that broom closet? Well, this is what happens if you take your favorite bucket into the broom closet.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh, no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it. Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go. There. Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of cleaning supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things. All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see, I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker. You know what? I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us the silent treatment, and to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies, easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
Anyway, that's it. No more spoilers. The Ultra Deluxe version is for sure worth it. Do buy the game.